Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
Today, Tuesday, February 23rd, is the feast of Saint Polycarp, Bishop of Smyrna and martyr. And these are today's headlines. European bishops are calling for a more equitable distribution of the COVID-19 vaccines. The Holy See's Secretary for Relations with States says the foundation of human rights must be rediscovered. And the UN Secretary General has condemned an attack in the Democratic Republic of Congo that resulted in the death of the Italian ambassador and 2 others. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells. Our top story today, the bishops of the European Union, with Caritas Europa, are calling on the EU to ensure an equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. Europe's Catholic leaders also lament the slow pace of the 27-nation bloc's rollout of the vaccines, as Devin Watkins reports.
Caritas Europa and the Commission of the Bishops' Conferences of the EU, or COMECE, have teamed up to call on European institutions to swiftly roll out COVID-19 vaccines and to ensure equity in accessing them. The EU has had a slow start to its vaccination program compared with other rich nations. Around 5% of EU residents have received a dose, compared with 21% in the UK and 14% in the US. In their statement, Catholic leaders raised several questions regarding the program. How were deals negotiated between the EU institutions and the pharmaceutical companies? And why were public institutions so seemingly unprepared, they wondered. COMECE and Caritas, however, praised the EU's commitment to the principle of solidarity, best seen in its decision to procure doses as a bloc rather than as single nations. Now the jabs are reaching arms, they say richer countries can increasingly see a light at the end of the tunnel and a presumptive end to a health and economic catastrophe. Yet European bishops and Caritas leaders urge the EU to promote wide-scale vaccination for the health and safety of all, even those living in poorer nations. It is urgent to implement mass vaccination campaigns quickly, they say. Ensuring vaccine access for all, that they are available and affordable, is a global moral urgency. They also call for a quick definition of the EU vaccine strategy and praise efforts to eliminate production bottlenecks. Europe's Catholic leaders then lamented the unequal and inequitable rollout of COVID-19 vaccines on a global scale. They say vaccine competition and vaccine nationalism have hurt people in poorer nations through export bans and other protectionist measures. Finally, the Catholic leaders invite the EU to listen to voices calling for vaccine justice. Europe can make its COVID-19 vaccine policy not only the beginning of the end of the pandemic crisis, they say, but also put it as the beginning of a new beginning for a renewed policy in the service of the common good and solidarity. I'm Devin Watkins.
Elsewhere, Afghanistan on Tuesday launched its COVID-19 vaccination program, despite a surge in violence in the war-ravaged country. The first consignment of 500,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine arrived earlier this month from Serum Institute of India, SII, which is producing the vaccine for mid- and low-income countries. Robin Gomes has more on that story.
This is a great opportunity and a great test for the health ministry and the entire nation. I call on all segments of the society to work with the health ministry. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani told a special ceremony at the inauguration of the COVID-19 program at the Presidential Palace in Kabul. Acting Health Minister Wajid Majroor regarded it as a fortunate day for Afghanistan, but admitted it would be a challenge to roll the plan to the whole country. He said the first phase of the program aims to vaccinate some 250,000 people from the security forces, health, education and the media. The COVID-19 vaccination drive is a daunting task given a surge in violence in the last quarter of 2020. The government and the Taliban insurgents opened talks in September, but the discussions have produced no results so far. However, Taliban insurgents fighting the foreign-backed Afghan government have announced their backing for the vaccination program. In a report on Tuesday, the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, UNAMA, and the United Nations Human Rights Office noted a rise in civilians killed and injured in Afghanistan following the start of peace negotiations last year. The Afghanistan peace negotiations that began in Qatar on 12 September, the report said, failed to alleviate the scale of civilian harm, a key indicator of violence levels. Instead, there was an escalation of violence with disturbing trends and consequences. Some 20% of Afghanistan's 38 million people are scheduled to receive the COVID-19 vaccine under the COVAX program, an initiative established by the United Nations World Health Organization WHO and its international partners to buy and deliver the vaccines for the world's poorest countries. COVAX has pledged $112 million for vaccines to Afghanistan. I am Robin Gomes.
According to the Holy See's representative at the UN Conference on Trade and Development, the world needs to overcome the present multilateral crisis and renew the principles of global cooperation in order to overcome the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking Monday at the Preparatory Committee for the UNCTAD 15th Ministerial Conference, which was rescheduled for 3 through 8 October 2021 in Barbados, Archbishop Ivan Yurkovich, the Vatican permanent observer to the UN and other international organizations in Geneva, highlighted that tackling the common challenges facing humanity today, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, requires improving global multilateral cooperation. Elsewhere in Vatican diplomacy, the Holy See's Secretary for Relations with States, Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, has called on the United Nations to rediscover the foundation of human rights in order to implement them in an authentic fashion, as the world continues to take measures to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Archbishop Gallagher made this appeal in a video message during the 46th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council, UNHCR, which commenced on Monday in Geneva, Switzerland. The 4-week-long session, which is being held virtually due to the ongoing health emergency, kicks off with a 3-day high-level segment when heads of state and dignitaries representing various countries and regions will address the council by video. And here we offer you a portion of Archbishop Gallagher's address.
For over a year now, the COVID-19 pandemic has been impacting every aspect of life, causing the loss of many and casting doubt on our economic, social, and health systems. It has also challenged our commitment to the protection and promotion of universal human rights, while at the same time asserting their relevance. As a global community, we need to rediscover the foundation of human rights in order to implement them in an authentic fashion. The preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights declares that the recognition of the inherent dignity of all members of the human family and of their equal and inalienable rights constitutes the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace. Similarly, the UN Charter asserts its faith in the fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small. These two documents recognize an objective truth, one that is independent of the need for consensus and is not conditioned by time, place, culture, or context, namely that every human person is innately and universally endowed with human dignity. Unfortunately, this solemn commitment is easier to pronounce than to achieve in practice. The UDHR affirms that the recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. We must admit, however, that these objectives are still far from being recognized, respected, protected, and promoted in every situation.
That was Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, the Vatican Secretary for Relations with States. In the Americas, the wife of jailed Mexican drug kingpin Chapo Guzman has been arrested in the United States. She's accused of drug trafficking and of helping her husband in previous jailbreaks. James Boyers has this report.
Prosecutors confirm that 31-year-old Emma Coronel has been detained in Dulles International Airport. She's accused of conspiring to supply marijuana, crystal meth, cocaine, and heroin. She's also accused of aiding and abetting her husband Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, who once led the Sinaloa drug cartel, in a high-profile sensational escape from a Mexican maximum security prison via a tunnel built by rogue mining engineers into his jail cell. They illegally obtained the plans of the jail, and Chapo was located via a GPS watch which was smuggled behind bars to him. Emma, who's due to be processed in court in Washington, D.C. via video link, has yet to comment about all of the charges against her. Husband Joaquin is 31 years older than Emma. The couple are the parents of twin daughters. He's serving a life sentence in a U.S. maximum security prison after being convicted of major drug trafficking and money laundering. The Sinaloa cartel smuggles drugs to more than 40 countries worldwide. Chapo, who's estimated to have amassed more than $14 billion from his crimes over the decades, was once listed as one of the richest men in the world by Forbes magazine. Emma, who was born in the United States and holds dual Mexican and U.S. nationality, attended every day of Chapo's 3-month trial in New York, describing him as a devoted husband and a loving father to their children. A former beauty queen, she also comes from the northwestern state of Sinaloa, which is the home base of the Sinaloa cartel, the most powerful illegal narcotics organization in the world. Several of Chapo's numerous sons are continuing the dynasty, which has survived their father's downfall and is still illicitly flourishing. Emma has often denied any connection to organized crime, although she married into it. For Vatican Radio, James Bliss reporting.
Elsewhere, messages of condolences are coming from religious and civil authorities in the wake of the brutal killing of Luca Attanasio, the Italian ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo, along with a police officer and a driver on Monday during a field trip in the eastern part of the country. Father Benedict Mayaki has the latest.
Italy's ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, was killed in an attack on Monday while traveling in a United Nations convoy in the east of the country, the Italian Foreign Ministry said. The ambassador Luca Attanasio, alongside an Italian Carabinieri police officer, Vittorio Iacovacci, and their Congolese driver, Mustafa Milambo, were ambushed as they were traveling from Goma, Congo's eastern regional capital, to visit a World Food Programme school project in Rutshuru. All 3 of them died in the shooting attack, while others in the convoy sustained injury. The World Food Programme said that the attack occurred on a road that had been previously cleared for travel without security escorts. In the wake of the tragedy, Archbishop Mario Delpini of Milan expressed his condolences in a statement. He described the ambassador as a good man, a competent diplomat, and an enterprising young man who was killed together with the police officer and their driver. Archbishop Delpini recalled meeting the ambassador in Milan in 2019 while preparing for a visit to the DRC. He also remembered that during his visit to the country, he heard good reports about the ambassador, his wife, and the mission, especially concerning their commitment to works of solidarity.
And that was Father Benedict Mayaki. Thank you for that report. And that brings us just about to the end of time for this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories and to hear this broadcast as a podcast, you can visit our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. Once again, that's www.vaticannews.va. You can also catch all of the latest updates on our Facebook page and on Twitter. Many thanks once again, as always, to our producers and to our technicians in studio. In the Vatican, I'm Christopher Wells.